physically.
And you and accused,
We had to fight.
you
We
responded
we
physically.
had at that moment to fight for our right to mourn.
And if
The funeral and the program are on a time. There's a time. We have to go in. We have to participate in what should allow us a healing for the loss that we had just experienced. We engaged now we know a very well experienced police officer who responded physically. Now we know.
And your response,
so I'm saying to you, he responded physically. He was not a reasonable man. He was not. His response was to immediately be physical with our car.
with the car. Not you, not accused number one. With the car, according to your version.
Yes.
He's physical with the car.
Yeah, he went to block our car.
Okay. Accused number one, when he testified, I want to know if you stand with accused number one, what he said. He said something, I was not going to reason with anyone who is going to stop me from burying my mother. He testified that. Do you feel the same way?
I think it's legitimate. I think it's a legitimate feeling that any reasonable human being should understand. The statement must be understood in the context.
But my question is, are you standing the same?
I'm answering your question.
Or you agreeing with him?
I'm answering.
Okay, answer.
That the statement must be understood. I'm saying that, first of all, it makes perfect sense to anybody who will reasonably apply their mind. The context is a very large one. We're in a funeral completely controlled by the state, subjected to multiple checkpoints by men and women of uniform, some carrying guns. Our cars are swept, we're made to wear tags on our heads, on our necks. We comply up until that point. At that point, we think there must be some mistake. If Mr. Fender could be spoken to, he is spoken to by the driver, he is spoken to by the president. His response is physical. He goes and physically blocks our car while saying you're not allowed to enter.
Okay.
So for a person who acts in that manner, it should be qualified as unreasonable.
So unreasonable.
Mr. Fender was 100% cerebral. He was unreasonable.
You said something very interesting. There's maybe some mistake on Fender's part. There's maybe some mistake, you just said. And if there was some mistake, if, for example, he did not get the message properly from his superiors or his seniors, if there was some mistake, this whole incident, the funeral of late Winnie Mandela, this whole assault, this could have been avoided, sir, if both of you spoke to a senior at that time.
Mr. Fender, and I repeat, I don't even know if you know the senior. I don't know. I mean, the inference of speaking with some senior person whilst you're being engaged physically is not a very good expectation on the state's part. Here is our experience. We are in a funeral, completely guarded, controlled, directed by the state with its full might. Men and women of uniform with guns take us through multiple checkpoints with dogs. We've been engaging these men and women of uniform from very early in the morning. We don't expect an unreasonability from a police officer unless they are part of Buremag.
But you know, there's always, Colonel Fender is in charge of the gate. There should, and there's always, with police officers, with the ranks, there's always a senior. There's always someone you can talk to if you are unsatisfied with any police officer's behavior.
I don't agree that that's always the case. I don't agree. I'm saying that this is a funeral. This is not, we're trying to enter a university. We're not, or trying to enter some party. we're trying to enter a funeral, which is on a time, we're trying to mourn. The state of our emotions is a very important one. The state should know us. Because our tags had our faces. The state should know us by name and surname, should know our faces. The state should know that we are coming. Hence the checkpoints and the sweepings and the credentials, which we complied with throughout. The unreasonable behavior of Mr. Fender seemed to us to be a direct violation of our rights. And in this case, it's the dignity to mourn.
If you had just asked both of you, where is your senior? Possibly General Zulu was there. At that time, we don't know where she is, but there is a senior. General Zulu was there. Maybe she would have come to speak to you before the assault.
If
this could have been avoided.
If General Zulu was the senior, General Zulu let us in. From what I understand, General Zulu is one of the ladies in blue uniform. If that's General Zulu, everybody except Fender kept saying, comrade, guys go in, guys go in. Just get in your car and get in. Get in your car and get in. If General Zulu is the senior of Mr. Fender, then they did let us in. And they were completely, in the manner of their communication with us, Your Worship, they were completely sympathetic. Completely sympathetic.
I understand. General Zulu did not let you in.
They were even saying, come down. I understand. Go to your car. Come down. He's assuring us that Fender is not going to do the back and forth he had been doing with trying to stop us from entry.
I can argue the different point. The people were saying, go to your car. They didn't want this assault. They could have meant, I don't want this assault. I don't want this humiliation on the of late Winnie Mandela.
That would be very...
Is this a question or argument? Because it's not making any sense with respect.
Your Worship, the witness has said this is what they were understanding. These witnesses were never called. There's another possibility of what these...
Court will allow it.
Thank you, Your
You
Worship.
may proceed. If you want the question to be repeated, or are you able to answer?
Maybe she must repeat it.
Repeat the question.
You said these officers were saying, calm down, calm down. They were sympathetic to you and accused one. They were saying, go to your car. Am I right? That's what you said. You were shaking your head. Just say, that's what you meant.
I'm waiting for the question,
No,
Mama.
that is what you said. I'm just repeating what you said. Am I right to understand you correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Now that's a question.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, they could have meant, go to the car. Yes, we understand there's an incident, but just go to the car, go to the car. We don't want this assault. There's a possibility they meant that. We don't want this assault, this humiliation on the funeral of late Winnie Mandela.
They did not want our humiliation, and I would want to believe that being officers of the law, they appreciate that car could have not gotten there without it being safe, without it having the rights to be there. It is with individuals that are wearing tags. They have the rights to be there. The sympathy is certainly on our part. Otherwise, the state's entire protocol was futile. If, at that instance, any car can be let in just because Fender is being pushed. Now, I'm saying to you, you will always misunderstand this entire event if you disarticulate it from its context. This is the state. This is the state. This is the full force of the government.
If you're saying the state, are you meaning
the police? Yeah, men, the police, men who are sworn in, men and women who are sworn in to protect the law.
I'm just following, you're just meaning the SAPS, police.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the state. The state has been in charge. And its charge doesn't start at the gate, Your Worship. So any officer who is competent knows that this car could have not arrived here unless it had all the full rights. And if there was a dispute, they couldn't take the side of the pushers unless they were sure that the pushers, in this case, myself and the accused one, had the right to be there. Because it would be a risk. The entire protocol is meant to avoid risks, some of which include bombs, include agent provocateurs entering to disrupt the funeral procession. They must have been thinking in full light of that entire procedure that they were allowing us to enter.
Exactly. So there should have been a senior on duty. It is the state, as you just said.
Having a senior
No, let me finish. Let me finish. Thank you. As you just said, SAPS, the full force of the police, they are in charge. There is, if you are unsatisfied, if you have just asked, I believe if you have just asked, can I speak to your senior, your supervisor, somebody would have come. Because SAPS, as you said, is in charge.
The idea that Mr. Fender, who had been engaged, was going to give us a senior. Our reading of Mr. Fender, based on his dismissal of us conversationally and his physical language, is that he was not a man who was going to answer any questions. He's not a man who was going to say, no, let me call my senior to ask. Certainly, he didn't say that. He didn't even say that he's going to verify. He told us we are not allowed to enter. So the idea of any reasonable person in that context, with a mountain of offender acting in that manner, physically, to think he's, again, the person who's going to give me a senior, who's going to not think he's in charge, who's not going to think he has the power to stop the car, who's not going to think I am not allowed, that's a very unreasonable expectation. We tried to engage Mr. Fender. That attempt might have led, to that possibility. He was not engageable. Mr. Fender told us we are not allowed to enter, went to physically block the car, refused to be removed in a pull position, which he responded with a push, and then we kept pushing him, he kept pushing us back to try and stop us from entering. That's the context. That's the manner of a man we were confronted with. He was not a reasonable person. He was not a person who was going to give me his senior.
But you didn't ask. Am I right?
Because-
But you did not ask.
Because Mr. Fender was not engageable, did not have the opportunity for a decent conversation to take place at the point at which I was engaging. He was physical.
He was physical.
Yes.
And physical, not laying his hands on you, but physical just with his body.
Yes.
Alternative,
Your
if
Worship,
there's no answer.
I'm hoping that the court will appreciate that that has the same effect. To say that he didn't use his hand to push and he used his body, it has the same effect. It is a push. Push is a description of force effect. So Mr. Fender pushed back many times to try and block us from entering. He did. You saw it in the video that they played. So to say that he didn't use his hand to try and invalidate or make futile the fact that he was physical, I think that it's seriously immaterial. At least as long as my answer is put in that context.
I'm going to ask you a last question. Did you feel your life was in danger? Your life, besides your dignity,
yes,
your life.
my life was in danger.
How was your life in danger?
Because my dignity is my life.
Is your dignity your life?
Yes.
And everything could have been avoided.
If Fender respected the law.
And if you just said, I'm speaking to a senior.
No.
It would not. Okay.
No. I completely disagree and I wish to explain again.
Okay.
Fender was not a man. You know when a person you're speaking to.
Sorry, you said Fender is not a man.
Was not a man who was going to be answering questions. He was physical and unreasonable. He did not give us a chance to reason with him. And certainly in his behavior, he didn't seem like a man who was going to even take kind asking for an authority other than him. Have a correct platform, an amicable platform to mourn a loss in their lives. He's engaging mourners. He comes because he's got that power at that instance. He's a powerful man in relation to this particular instance. The power relations are on his side. He's wearing uniform. He's got the power to stop who comes in and comes out. And even when he's demonstrated to, yes, I mean, we came here maybe 2 years after. He it still didn't occur to him. He still didn't care whether we had the right to be there or not. That's an institution. That's a person representing the institution that must protect the rights of the mourners, seeing that the instance or the incident or the occasion was a funeral. No, Mr. Fender is the institution in this case.
So
Mr. Fender is exercising power in this instance. The fact of our successful resistance of that power is the coincidence of our successful resistance of that power would not result into any form of his powerlessness.
You know,
He's powerful. He's the police officer.
Yes, he has, as said, he was in charge of the gate, access control.
He's not mourning.
He has a duty.
Exactly, to guide, to protect the law, to make sure that the mourners mourn in peace. And he interfered with those rights. He violated the law. We know today that we had the right to be there. He may have not known at that instance, but he knows subsequently. You know subsequently. The whole country knows subsequently that we had the right to mourn. We had the right to be there. Mr. Fender interfered with that right. Mr. Fender violated that right. And then laid a charge. Videos were released subsequently, not really for Mr. Fender, for our humiliation.
Then
We are the ones who are answering.
Then at this point, while it seems accused number one's back he's now moving to the vehicle, you are still engaging with some officers. Why at that point?
That's not humiliation. He's being corrected.
Listen, that's my question. Why at that point did you not just walk in?
We did.
Leave the vehicle.
We
walk,
did.
not drive in, walk in.
We had the right to be in with our vehicle. Those are the rights Fender had to protect. Otherwise, we shouldn't have been subjected to an entire procedure over days, over hours of being cleared. We had the right. It's immaterial. Fender is on the wrong. And we know now as a fact.
You are saying Fender is on the wrong.
Absolutely.
But never once, when you saw, according to your version, I'm not saying Fender is wrong, but according to what you're testifying, Fender is wrong.
Willing to have a detailed conversation about our right to be there. He was a man whose continuous position, physically and verbally, you're not allowed to enter. Okay. The rest of it I didn't hear because I have very little access to Afrikaans.
Okay. Did you try, when you were trying to engage with Colonel Fender, did you try to speak to his supervisor, his senior at that time?
I don't know his supervisor at that time. I don't know who is his senior at that time. I'm seeing a man hell-bent on violating my right.
My question is, okay, did you ask Colonel Fender, but where's your supervisor?
No, he was physical. He was not willing to be conversational. He was physical. The first act of physicality was to grab a car, my car, the car I am in. It will not move. That is his physical language.
Okay.
It will not move by the force of my body.
That you explain that to us.
Yes, so I mean I'm saying that and you interact with such a person, they tell you you're not allowed to enter.
But when he said you're not allowed to enter, did you say, I want to speak to your manager, your supervisor?
No,
Because
I tried to pull him that, okay, my sense was maybe if we go to the side and have a conversation, he might understand or something. And then the language of his body did not seem to be a man willing to have a conversation.
So you wanted to pull him aside to have a conversation with him?
Yes.
That was your intention. Oh, good.
Yes, that, hey, Chief, maybe, like, let me...
Speak one-on-one.
In the meantime, obviously, I mean, that was the intention of pulling. Okay, maybe if you come, but the language, the response to the pull was decisive.
So he was not happy that you are now pulling on him?
I don't know the state of his emotions, but it was decisive, it was forceful.
When he pulled back, it was forceful?
It was forceful. He pulled pushing. He pulled his hand back pushing. Yeah, it's quite a good motion, like let go of me and then also push away.
But maybe that's a reasonable response. You are pulling on him now. He doesn't know what your intention is either. He doesn't know that you want to speak to him on the side, just one-on-one, and try to resolve this matter.
I think Colonel Fender is fully aware, as an officer of the law. He's been canvassed from the driver, he's been canvassed from the president of the EFF. I'm now canvassing him. It's very clear what his intention is. It's very clear what his state of mind is at that point.
But I disagree with you. And the reason I disagree with you is because, as you explained, you were talking to him, you were asking him, what are you doing? We have a right of way. And he said, Colonel Fender, you are not allowed to enter. And then you pulled him on his arm, as you said. He, at that moment, doesn't know what your intention is either. He is just seeing somebody pulling on my arm.
I disagree back. I think Colonel Fender understood what he was doing. I think Colonel Fender had been canvassed. I was not the first person to engage him about our right to be there. I was not the first person to explain that we have credentials. I was wearing my credential on my neck at all material times. You are not allowed to enter was a very full-blown statement that you are not going to enter, because it is said in a position of physically blocking the car. It is said in a position, he was in a language of the physique now. He was, I'm not sure how else we are supposed to read a police officer physically blocking your car whilst you are trying to get an explanation of, I've got a tag, the car has a permit, on what grounds are you not allowing us? He goes and blocks the car with his body. And then I say, what are you doing? You're not allowed to enter, but we have all the rights to be here. What do you mean? So I tried to pull him, and he was much more forceful. And then I pushed to try and take him away from the car, because now, in my finger, there will be a pointing. So this gesture could be interpreted in many ways. I'm afraid I cannot speak for her. What was she doing with that hand? But it's pointed towards the right, and I happen to be on the right.
Yes. So I'm going to put it to you that she is stopping. She's trying to stop you. Her hand is towards you, to your chest. The second police officer's hand is also up. Also in a stopping gesture, but that hand is, and I'll give it, that hand specifically is not directly pointed at you. But I will leave it for argument. Accused one is now pushing, play Mr. Baba, Colonel Fender, you agree? Stop quickly. Did you see that the accused one was on the video footage pushing Colonel Fender?
Yes.
Now you are coming past the police officers. Play. Stop. Pushing Colonel Fender as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I pushed him.
Okay. You are smiling when you say yes, you pushed him. Are you happy that you pushed him? Or you were smiling now, so I'm asking.
I'm smiling, yes. Now, you mean now or then?
Yes, when you were answering, yes.
Yeah, I pushed him.
Okay, let's leave it there.
The problem, I'm not happy or not happy. The things you're asking me are self-evident. And these grounds have been canvassed for so many times. And it's difficult emotionally to keep watching this humiliation of myself and accused one when our rights were being violated to try and go bury a loved one. So to constantly have to interact with this humiliation, it's not easy.
Okay. Unfortunately, this is the procedure and you have to go through it. Okay? Now, Mr. Baba, just go back a bit. You have now successfully, both of you, pushed him against the wall. Stop there. You agree with me, Colonel Fender is no longer, as you testified, in front of the vehicle, in front of the Mercedes-Benz.
At that time?
At this time, you're coming for him.
Well, not by his intention. He's there because we pushed him to be there. He wouldn't be there, and he kept trying to make his way back. So he's not there because Colonel Fender wanted to be there.
Yes, but at this time now, you are pushing him. He is not moving. When accused number 1 was pushing him, you are coming. He is now not moving as you testified earlier, going to the car.
Yeah, that's because you paused, so he cannot move because you paused.
Okay,
the video.
let's just go a bit back, and then we see Mr. Baba. Let's go a bit back. He's just
So you see he was moving.
yes.
Now that the video is playing.
Okay. Mr. Baba, just rewind it back and then play it where it doesn't jump.
He was in front of the vehicle there. You've seen it. He was not moving when you were pushing him. When accused 1 was pushing him, then you came. Colonel Fender was not moving to be in front of the vehicle again. Because you've succeeded in pushing him away from the vehicle.
When we pushed Colonel Fender, he was moving.
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm just saying on this picture.
For as long as he was moving in the
Yes.
whole fracas, he was trying to get to the vehicle. That's
Yes.
my version.
I understand that.
Yes.
But on this footage, go back. Colonel Fender was not moving to stand in front, to go back to the vehicle.
I don't know how you can arrive at that conclusion because he is moving.
Yes.
You don't know where he's going.
No.
You're speculating.
No, I'm not speculating. I'm watching the video footage. That's all I'm doing. He stopped there. He's now not in front of this vehicle. Here you are coming. Play, Mr. Baba. Was he going back? I can see he's not going back to stand in front of the vehicle as you testified.
Mr. Fender was moving even in the video when we pushed him. That's number 1. That is self-evident. 2, his movement up until the police officers, I think, held him back. He had been trying to go back to the vehicle. The vehicle is not far from where we are pushing him from. So the intention is to make sure that he doesn't stop us from entering, and that is stop our vehicle from entering, because we had all the rights.
Okay. When you two were pushing accused 1 and you were pushing Colonel Fender, his side was towards you, was facing accused 1 and accused. Your Worship, that is my end of my questioning, Your Worship. Please.
Mr. Horace, re-examination.
Dr. Ndlozi.